The Greatest Egyptian Discovery, Secrets of Finding the Mummy of Thutmose II, Full Story, Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. The tomb of King Thutmose II is the last lost tomb of the kings of the 18th dynasty in Egypt, more than a century after the discovery of the tomb of King Tutankhamun. An Egyptian-British research team announced the discovery of a royal tomb belonging to King Thutmose II, the last lost tomb of the kings of the 18th dynasty in Egypt, which is considered one of the greatest pharaonic discoveries ever. Discovery site: the tomb of King Thutmose II was found in the western valleys of the Theban tombs, near the city of Luxor, an area that was known to be designated for the burial of queens. But the discovery surprised researchers after it became clear that the tomb belongs to a pharaoh and not to one of the royal women. This came during excavations and archaeological studies of tomb number C4, whose entrance and main passage were found in 2022 in the Wadi Sea area of Mount Thebes, west of Luxor, which is located about 2.4 kilometers west of the Valley of the Kings. The first royal tomb discovered since 1922. Evidence was found that clearly indicates that it belongs to King Thutmose II. And this tomb is the first royal tomb to be found since the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. Pharaonic Mummy Archive. According to the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, the tomb of King Thutmose II is the last lost tomb of the kings of the 18th dynasty in Egypt, which was discovered during excavation work in Mount Thebes, west of Luxor, in the south of the country. For his part, the Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, Sherif Fadi, described the discovery as an exceptional moment in Egypt's history, and an important step towards understanding human history more broadly. Forbes magazine praised Egypt's success in uncovering the tomb of King Thutmose II, making it the first discovery of the tomb of an Egyptian pharaonic king in a century, and one of the most important archaeological discoveries in recent years. For his part, Dr. Piers Lizzerland, director of the archaeological mission, said that the tomb contains a huge staircase and a very large corridor, which indicates the grandeur of the place. The mystery of the disappearance of the tomb. The archaeological team faced great difficulty in removing the rubble from the corridors that were filled with debris as a result of the floods, and they had to crawl through a narrow corridor 10 meters long before they reached the burial chamber, according to statements by Zealand to the BBC via the NewsHour program. The research team found the tomb completely empty, not only because the tomb was robbed, but because its contents were deliberately moved in ancient times, noting that research showed that the tomb was exposed to a flood a few years after the king was buried, which led to the reburial of his mummy in another location. Who is Thutmose II? Thutmose II is the fourth pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt during the New Kingdom era, and the origin of many of the most famous pharaohs in the history of Egypt goes back to it, as it ruled from about 1549-1550 to 1292 BC. He is the son of King Thutmose I, and gained his legitimacy to rule through his marriage to his half-sister Hatshepsut, daughter of Queen Ahmose. The main wife of King Thutmose I, Hatshepsut, became the ruling pharaoh and ruled for more than 20 years after the death of her husband and the end of her guardianship over her minor stepson, who later became pharaoh under the name Thutmose III, known as the Napoleon of the East. The mummy of King Thutmose II was found in the Deir el-Bahari cache in 1881. And studies have proven that the king died at the age of 30, and the mummy is currently in the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. Thutmose II succeeded in suppressing rebellions in Nubia and the Levant and defeated a group of nomadic Bedouins, but these campaigns were carried out specifically by the king's generals. and not by Thutmose II himself, according to what the Egyptian Museum of Antiquities states on its official website. The Egyptian Museum describes the mummy as having, like other kings, his hands crossed on his chest, while his right leg is completely broken away from the body. Unlike other royal mummies, his fingernails and toenails were trimmed and clean, indicating that he was a king who cared about himself and his personal hygiene. Who is King Thutmose II? How will the discovery of King Thutmose II's tomb affect tourism in Egypt? What are the effects of the discovery of King Thutmose II's tomb on the scientific understanding of the Pharaonic era?